Thanks. So I'm going to briefly talk about the funding instruments which will support the collaboration between research and industry. And there was a mention about how well things are in Sweden since they have the Wallenbergs, but also we have many options, maybe not so much foundation-based, but other options for funding this kind of collaborative research. I'm a research professor at VTT, and also in FCAI role, I'm responsible for the Industry Society program, and so this collaboration, getting the results into industry. So I was listening very, very carefully to the panel discussion. It was very, very interesting also for me. So going forward here, there are many forms of industry research collaboration, but I'm focusing on joint projects. So like Teke's Business Finland projects, European Union projects here. Other forms are also very good for cooperation, like unofficial networks between industry and industry people and researchers, contract projects with one industrial partner and one research partner, and of course the thesis works supervised by university professors and continuous education programs. So there are a lot of other things too, but I'm focusing in this time on the funding of joint projects. If you think about joint projects, it's important to realize that what they are, what you can achieve, and what they are not. So you have to have some kind of common goal, want to develop something together with other partners, and it should probably serve your business needs in the mid-term or longer term. If it's a short term, maybe then a contract with research community is better since it's faster. Usually, if you form a joint consortium, you have complementary capabilities between different partners, so each has a role. But sometimes you could have kind of pre-competitive consortia, for example, that you have Nokia, Ericsson, and some other companies who are in the same business, but they develop something, let's say, before standardization, before the actual competition starts. And as I said, you have to be a bit patient with joint projects, and you have to share some knowledge. You cannot be kind of keeping everything to yourself. Of course, NDIs are one way of ensuring that information doesn't leak out too much. Then going to the sources of funding. Maybe the most well-known is Business Finland, used to be Teke's, and their instrument, like they say, for joint projects is co-innovation funding. There's also co-creation funding, which might be before the co-innovation phase. The co-innovation is for the actual research and development projects. And what you have to know about Business Finland funding is that they expect growth in export and growth in the business of those participants, and it has to be substantial growth. The role of SMEs is important. So in your consortia, you usually need also SME partners and then research partners, university, VTT, or some similar. And there's an AI for Business program running, at least for this year. It's a rather large program, and Outi Keskiäijä is the contact person there. And the links to this information or these websites are in this presentation, so you can go to details there. Then European Union, of course, has a very wide and also a bit complicated set of research and development and innovation funding available, and at the moment or during this year, next year, and foreseeable future, AI plays a big role in these calls. EU usually defines quite exactly what they want. In certain call they want to be projects which target specific problems or specific issues. For example, artificial intelligence for sustainable agile manufacturing. That is one of the calls coming up this year or next year. EU is emphasizing now very much two transitions: green transition and digital transition. And I think that AI can support both, and it's of course naturally very digital by nature. And different project forms emphasize research, development, or innovation, and even investment. And there are also projects supporting network forming and this kind of networking between partners. Special benefit for EU projects compared to national projects is that you can develop international networks, sales channels, but there's a drawback that they are a bit slower. There's a lead time when preparing the project. And typically you have to have at least 3 countries, maybe 4 to 6, 8 partners in a project, depending on the project size. And of course, the conditions and funding shares vary, and usually SMEs are favored in some sense. Then we have some other funding sources. Especially interesting is now the Eureka Clusters AI call for this year. It's a new call. It's a co-innovation funding, and Business Finland is the kind of responsible partner for Finland. So each country funds, supports its own or the partners in their own countries. Eureka Clusters call is much wider scope than EU call, so you have more freedom. You can develop your project idea and your targets yourself. Deadline late June. Then there's a key digital technologies, which is a new kind of instrument, new joint undertaking, like they call it in EU. It kind of comes in replacing Excel, Artemis, EPOS organizations, if you know them, and it is still underperforming. And there you have the European funding and the national funding, and of course the partner's own funding. So you have 3 sources, and they are often a bit more like, let's say, they can be bigger than typical EU projects. And then you have the testing and experimentation facility for AI. That's a specific funding, and in European scale, this 200 million is not so big, but since it's targeted for the AI, it might be interesting. For example, edge AI or manufacturing, AI and manufacturing might be interesting for Finland. Then to conclude, you have to realize that, of course, the different instruments suit different needs. So if you are aiming for a national project, then it's Business Finland or some other national funding source. And time scale, do you aim to, let's say, have the results in 2 years, then it's probably Business Finland. If you have 2-3 years, then European Union is also a good choice, and of course you start getting the results earlier, but the main results may be a bit farther away in EU project. If your ambition level is very high, probably maybe, or if you need a big project, then European collaboration is probably very interesting for you. And of course, if you need European competencies of European partners. The funding conditions vary, maybe typically is from 30 to 70% of eligible costs. All costs are not eligible, but most of them are, like salaries, travel, equipment, and so on. And of course, joint projects are good when they are properly used. So you want to achieve something longer term, and you need partners to do it. If you can do it alone, then no reason to start a joint project. But if you want to achieve something that your own resources cannot do, then joint projects are good for long-term, this kind of long-term goals. And of course, there's an additional benefit, which might be sometimes very, very important, or even the most important, to build collaboration networks for other future work and doing kind of outside this official project, you can then continue. But when doing collaboration, of course, you have to give something. It's not only taking, but it's also giving. So cooperation and open attitude benefits you, and it's necessary for successful project. Thank you. I think that concludes what I wanted to say, and maybe if there are some questions or something like that, then we can have that.
Thank you, Heikki. Like, if the audience has any questions regarding like funding opportunities or collaboration, would you be the best contact person then to get back to?
Absolutely. I will help, and if I cannot answer, or I'll find the contact inside FCAI. For example, if you have some idea or topic which you want, I will help you together with other people in FCAI to talk to the right people.
Yes, and FCAI is of course a huge community, so we have a lot of capabilities and the links to various application domains and methodologies. So that sounds very good. Thank you.